What's going on, guys? Welcome to Members Room. My name is Alex, and on today's episode, we sit down with CEO and founder of Link Creative, Lorenzo Costa, and discuss how he is building his seven-figure digital marketing agency. On today's episode, we discuss how he learned entrepreneurship through his father, how he learned the importance of relationships through DJing in downtown Chicago in his younger years, and now how he is building his digital marketing agency from scratch and killing it in the game right now. Hope you enjoy the show. I really did. Stay tuned. Lorenzo Costa, CEO, Link Creative. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Let's get into your early life.
Let's do it.
How'd you get into entrepreneurship?
It's a great question, but a hard question for me, I think. I think everybody that becomes a business owner has some sort of pivotal point when they know or understand that that is something that they want to do. For me, it was a little bit simpler. I grew up in and around my family, who my father, my entire life, was an entrepreneur. So I kind of grew up around the work ethic of what it would take to start something. I think my route up until my business was pretty traditional. I, went to school, but throughout college, I knew that after kind of all the fun was over, getting a normal corporate job, I pretty much knew early on, I think the day after I graduated, I was going to work corporate until I figured out a way to start a business. So it's not a simple answer, but I think it's like a culmination of a lot of small, tiny things compounding, building up over time.
Now, going back a little bit, in college especially, one of your main sources of income was DJing.
It was.
And you started that in middle school, was it?
Yeah, I think I was about 13 years old. I think some of you will probably remember this, but like a lot of us, we grew up during the age of like iPod Nanos and things like that coming out. At the time, growing up, I had like an iHome clock in my room, like one of those stupid alarm clocks. It had these little wheels on it to adjust the volume. I think I was like 12, 13 years old, and I would like plug in my iPod and then just adjust the volume and like act like I was DJing. That then turned into me probably asking one of my parents to take me to Guitar Center and like pick up a controller, and started, I think I DJ'd outside of my house for the first time in 8th grade at like a friend's basement party. But that's kind of how it started. Yeah. Had a lot of friends in my neighborhood and kind of in and around my, I guess, high school area that were doing it as well. So that made it easier.
So you DJ'd at some parties in high school, got some experience there, and then coming into your freshman year of college, you were at Marquette University in Wisconsin, and you came across e-commerce when it was starting out popping, selling products online, and you got a little bit into that, if you want to talk about that experience.
Yeah, when I talk now about like kind of how I got some of my footing in marketing and advertising, what I'm doing now, I always kind of start the story with this. So super thankful for this experience. Had an internship, I think I must have been 18, 19. One of my family members owned at the time a pretty big web and software development firm in the city. This was before I had any idea what I wanted to do for work. It allowed me to learn a lot about e-commerce, business development. I was doing some email marketing campaign, but ultimately it allowed me to learn about paid advertising. At the time, this would have been 2017, 2018, which it was a lot more of a new concept and an up and coming concept than it is now. But with that, it kind of made me obsessed with the idea of like making money digitally. I had no idea what I was doing, but I was bored, candidly, in Milwaukee at Marquette at the time. Was doing my classes and stuff like that. But I went down this crazy rabbit hole of like e-commerce and digital marketing. At one point, I think I paid an ads agency out of London to build me a store that I knew nothing about. I owned the store. They were running all my ads. At the time, I think I was, and this is no joke, I was selling nail polish and hairbrushes. I didn't care what it was, but it was doing sales. I was in my dorm room on Shopify with like $800 days, $1,100 days, and I had no idea what was going on. it was then up to me to kind of fulfill these orders. The ad agency I was paying wasn't doing that. Then once customers started to kind of figure out that this was a drop shipped nail polish that was taking 5 to maybe 7 weeks to come in, I started to get a shit ton of like customer service emails. Where's my package? So on and so forth. Then I kind of quickly shut down the store, refunded that. But I think in like 1 month of doing it, I got up to about 19, 20K in revenue from like one product. Had no idea like what that meant, what I was doing. But that to me kind of opened up the floodgate of ideas, I think.
So at the time, how did you think you were going to fulfill? Did you not get that far into the process where you're like, I actually got to fulfill these orders and give the product?
We were fulfilling them. That wasn't the problem. People just were requesting refunds too often because of how long it was taking. So I think people were getting skeptical, and there was no, at the time, like there wasn't a brand attached to it. It was ads and a website. There wasn't any social media.
Was there any lead times on the website?
Maybe. I wish I had like a picture of it. Like, I don't even know where that stuff exists now. I still have screenshots on my phone though of like the Shopify sales and that kind of stuff coming in. I would like was playing soccer still at Marquette at the time, and I would like look at my phone after, do all these like Shopify orders. But no, like that to me, like, right, a lot of people say YouTube University. I was doing my classes. I was still a freshman in college. You know, those classes really don't matter. And then I was watching hours upon hours of videos of like all these big time 7 and 8 figure drop shippers, and kind of like now knowing what I know today is a little bit fugazi, a little bit, probably some of the stuff I was consuming, but the concepts still like hold true. But yeah.
And you got a lot of experience in e-commerce. Why didn't you stick to it? Because people say if you stick to an industry, you know, for a long enough period of time, you will be successful. Mm-hmm. Why did you kind of pivot from that and kind of just give it up e-commerce?
Yeah, I can't remember quite too well, but at the time it didn't feel realistic to try to like build and sustain a business as a freshman in college. My classes would have fell too much behind, and then at that time that was around when I was trying to transfer to U of I. So it was kind of like that was just an experiment, it was a little game, and I was like, let's get serious about my major and what I'm going to school for. Mm-hmm. Then I pivoted to transferring schools and kind of got the more traditional financial sort of internships throughout college.
And you started DJing at different bars in college. That's how we met at U of I. We actually roomed together junior year of college, my junior, his senior year. And you DJed a lot at the bars, and then you started to become pretty prominent in the Chicagoland clubbing world right out of college. At your age, it's pretty impressive, the type of shows you were playing at.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about that.
Yeah, it was, for me, that was like, I guess, funding my lifestyle at the time. I mean, at U of I, you know, playing bars at college, you're getting paid $100 for a 5-hour set, right? Which is like really extreme to think about now. But it really didn't matter if you were getting paid at all at that time. It was just fun to do it. Obviously within our fraternity, there was a lot of like events and stuff going on that I was able to play. But that to me, that was my first introduction to like building a brand for myself a little bit. People kind of often get that idea confused, but people started to identify me with something and with a skill, which is ultimately what allowed me to kind of move into the Chicago market and start playing shows. But like anything else, and probably like some of the questions you'll ask me about Link coming up, like the first gigs I got in the city were strictly me just hustling, just DMing people, making connections, making relationships. That's like ultimately what I've built the foundation of everything off of. But yeah, it was an awkward time because, you know, I graduated college in 2021. That was the heat of COVID. So I entered the Chicago market of hospitality, DJing places with a mask on. I don't remember you. Maybe you were at my first ever gig in the city was at a place in Lincoln Park called The Dime. I don't remember if you would have been there, but like people were sitting down at tables with masks on, and I was like doing a full blown set like I was at Lollapalooza. So that's kind of what it was, but it also gave me a good introduction because something I didn't know then that I know now, the industry, so to speak, as people refer to it as, kind of reset during COVID. It's a very like, you have to know people you have to earn your stripes, you have to work your way up. And I was able to tell early on as a 22-year-old getting in and kind of DJing almost every place in the city that some of the older guys probably didn't accept that or didn't like that. There was reasons we'll get into why I was kind of doing what I was, but yeah.
And because of that reset, there were a lot of opportunities at the bigger clubs, such as Tao Chicago. You were probably one of the youngest regulars at Tao Chicago, 23, 24 years old.
Yeah.
How did you end up getting that large of one of the biggest clubs in Chicago at such a young age?
Yeah. Well, the reset was perfect because all of these venues didn't make money for so long. So they would do anything at the time just to get people through the door. Coming out of college, going to a big school like U of I, having like a Greek life presence at the time when people were going out a lot. I don't want to say it was hard, but it was pretty easy to get a big guest list at some of these places. It was just not heard of, right? So I'll give a big shout out to my boy Deox, DJ Deox. Someone who really kind of like took me under his wing, brought me into that relationship at Tao. And I'll never forget it. I was on a little mini vacation after graduating college, and he had hit me up to open at Tao. And this, at the time, I had only played 1 or 2 venues. So like going from like a couple little small venues to playing probably the best of the best in the city was like a massive jump. Almost couldn't believe it at the time. But I think I remember was probably, I think June 19th, 2021 was my first time ever playing there. I remember it because it was that significant to me. And at the time then, my first couple times playing Tao, I was able to, I think I was able to get like 150 to 200 people on a guest list the first initial times, and then kind of wrote it out from there. There was no doubt, right? I'm not dumb. Like that was the primary reason why I was opening and playing there at the time. But also you don't get to become a resident at a premier nightclub in the entire country by not being good as well. So there was a lot that went into it. You got to carry yourself as a businessman, right? I never like went into it partying and things of that nature. Everybody, that's a big preconceived notion. Like all the DJs and all the people that I know within Chicago, it's a lot of their full-time jobs. It was never my full-time job, even though people thought it was, which is interesting. So, right at the time I was working my 9 to 5, I was DJing. Then I started Link. There's a lot of people I went to school with that thought I was DJing, DJing full-time, but that just was because what I was choosing to advertise online and kind of operate as a personal brand. But, there was a lot of opportunity within that.
Yeah, I think it's actually, thinking back, it's kind of crazy how DJing was your whole identity. And then we'll get into it later, but once you stopped, now you're not even the DJ anymore, Yeah. But what I wanted to get into was how you got into Tao. You would say relationships, talking to people is one of the most important things, not even just in life, but in business. And how important was that in your life? Just talking to people, DMing, keeping relationships that are important to you.
Yeah, I talk about one of my good friends now, Deox, mentor to me in the DJ scene. And I don't remember what it was, but I was at U of I. I probably DM'd him 5-6 times, sent him a mix before he even responded. He's a little bit older than me, but I will never forget. At the time, there was a venue called Clutch in Chicago. It then turned into Bloom. They had like a really cool Sunday party going on. I think I got my first opportunity to play there prior to even graduating. People didn't understand this at the time. I think on a Sunday in the morning, I drove from U of I 2.5 hours away straight to Chicago, played an 1.5-hour set to get paid $100, and then just drove back to U of I for that one opportunity. If I didn't do that, the opportunity from Tao and opening that door and proving myself probably would have never happened. But there's a lot of people that maybe kind of wouldn't take that chance early on. But that cemented my relationship with a couple industry-based people. And Chicago's huge. There's a lot of venues, but once you start to meet the people that are like really controlling everything on the inside, if you're cool, you present yourself well, you have people to bring out, everybody's respectful. It's pretty easy to kind of have a good career doing it. But yeah, the relationships is everything.
Now to the conception of Link, creative. You were DJing weekends, working your 9 to 5. At what point were you like, I might just start a business as well?
Yeah, the intersection of like hospitality and DJing taught me a lot about promotion, advertising, holding yourself as a personal brand, the amount of resources and connections that you meet from talent bookers to graphic designers to videographers, photographers, promoters. It's huge, right? So at the time, I knew that the relationships I was making through hospitality was going to lead me to something. I just didn't know what it was. So I guess the idea for Link Creative was conceptualized in 2022. At the time, it was near Christmas. I think it took me a good 5 months from thinking of the idea to actually like forming my LLC to start the business. A month after forming the LLC, we had our first client. But I think in my head, it started as a business to like showcase and market the hospitality industry. That then kind of segued obviously into a lot of other things. But at the time, right, like didn't know anything, had kind of a BS website. You hear a lot of people say that. They're like, don't focus on the website, don't focus on the logo, get something up and running and just go for it. I naively did that. Through the stability of having my 9-to-5 at the time and then having the supplemental DJ income, which like some people could have like lived off of as well, I was in a very comfortable position to kind of go after my goals with Link Creative and not like care about any repercussions, right? I had the stability of my income, but people don't understand that I was operating and trying to build Link Creative, working my 9-to-5 and DJing 3 times a week for the first 11 months of my business, right? It was like, I'll never forget the stuff that I like tried to do or went through, but it was a roller coaster of experiences, working at my 9-to-5. I was at Northern Trust at the time, Total 180. I was a financial analyst. The work I was doing there was just super boring, super mundane, very, very corporate 9-to-5 work, as a lot of people potentially listening to this are kind of in for themselves. But yeah, it was a grind every day. I was able kind of with the flexibility of my 9-to-5 though, to put a lot of time into Link. I was working remote at the time a lot. Yes, I probably finessed the living shit out of working my 9-to-5. There's a lot of funny stories with that. I pretty much used my 9-to-5 office as a Link office for a long time, and was juggling client meetings, juggling 9-to-5 meetings. So it was an interesting kind of first way into entrepreneurship.
How important are relationships and especially referrals from those relationships into gaining your first few clients within Link?
Yeah, for us, it was everything, right? At the time that we started it, I was 24, right? So like realistically, starting a business as a 24-year-old, you're already beginning at a disadvantage. People don't take you seriously for a long time. You have no track record. But those first initial clients are like friends of friends, family members of friends, word of mouth, a couple minimal social media posts. But like I mentioned before, like we were just putting things out to put things out because I didn't have a ton of like pressure because I had my stability prior. But, the bulk of the clients we signed today and, the 40 plus relationships we've signed up until now have all been through relationships, referrals, and just being like a genuine partner to these people. We'll get into that kind of stuff. But it's realistically everything.
What kind of services did you offer your clients initially, and how has that changed as you've gone on, added more? Because I know you do SEO, web development, paid ads now. How did that kind of come through from the start?
So obviously in the early stages of any business, I wasn't in a position to deny business. In marketing today, a lot of companies niche off early on. A lot of companies go down the path of focusing strictly in one sector, whether it's restaurant and nightlife, whether it's dental, whatever it may be. We still are, and I like the idea of being industry agnostic. But in the beginning, that was like a real concern because I didn't have a proper collegiate background in marketing or advertising. I was all self-taught. Finding some of my early team members, I really relied on them. But our bread and butter early on was content production and social media management. At the time, and why I felt confident and comfortable to start the business, I had to put my Rolodex and my portfolio of contacts together and be like, who do I know that could execute video and photo and graphic design? And that's exactly what I pulled from my hospitality time and my DJ days of like, I knew a ton of people that did this stuff. Luckily enough, one of my first ever hire and day one employee, she was really great for the initial growth of the business. She went on to do her own thing, but she was someone I became friends with in college. She had a very significant and strong marketing background. So she kind of came on as our first account manager. I leaned a lot on her for support. It was very clear early on that I was the sales and marketing type of founder. I wasn't and don't want to be the operational systems fulfillment sort of guy, right? As I shouldn't be, but we were really offering like what I felt like we could convert on and fulfill. We then started to fold in services like web development, SEO, paid ads as I found my footing as a company, because the goal was always to be full service, full omni-channel marketing for our clients.
What kind of company would want to come to you? And what position does a company have to be in to be like, hey, you guys would bring us to the next level?
Right. We talk about our ICP a lot now at Link in the meetings that we have. And we talk about like who are the personas or the type of clients that we want to attract. For the longest time, it was a very hard thing to understand unless you were internal. For me now, it's a very much so relationship thing. We have to like have a really great understanding on a personal level to bring on a client. But in the beginning, we took on a lot of businesses that were new, right? A lot of businesses that didn't understand the technological ins and outs of sustaining a consistent digital presence. At the end of the day, no matter what service you're getting from us, we're in the business of buying and cultivating traffic, getting as much eyeballs to a business as possible, allowing brands and small businesses to tell their story and do so in the most professionalized, credible, thought leader way. So for us, systematically, like we're a content-based company first. We do have clients currently that solely get paid ads, that solely get SEO, but we always started as an organic agency, and then we want to convert that traffic where we can, whether it's pushing people to a website, converting online, filling out form, whatever that might be. But our whole mantra is we want to equate the stature of businesses to their online presence. So if you've been in business for 10, 15, 20 years and you have a strong operating business, we want your digital presence to replicate and reflect that. So it's a lot about, no pun intended, but linking the pieces together. And now we really have like kind of coined the phrase for ourselves, digital growth partner, because at the end of the day, we're a longevity partner. We want people to have the feeling of an in-house marketing department with the fee and the structure of an agency. So we want to be that neighborhood partner, that local sort of personalized approach where we could actually be in person with our clients, which a lot of the time we are.
And how do you go about convincing, let's say like a boomer, 40, 50-year-old business owner, had their business 20, 30 years. How do you go about convincing them to get on board with having a social media presence? They haven't had any social media. They don't really know what is out there. How do you go about convincing someone like that? We're not convincing, but selling them on the point that this will help your business.
Yeah. It's different for everybody. I would say convincing people they need it is not the hard part because it's so obvious now. I mean, you'd have to be like pretty out of tune, out of touch if you didn't understand why you need social media today. But I think it's more so about like selling people on the result rather than what we could do. So talking them through about like what they will become or what they should look like, feel like 6, 12 months down the line. So it's more the emotional aspect for me that we try to sell on. And at the end of the day, like, yes, as of now, we have great results. We have great case studies. We've provided a lot of ROI for clients. But I still feel like at the end of the day, most of the clients that we've signed on have been, giving our vision, betting on our vision, betting on me personally, to be honest. And then also it's like more of a comfort thing with the team and the personnel you're providing, because our clients, we have some clients we talk to 10 times a day. We have some clients we talk to once a month, but there's definitely a lot of interpersonal kind of collaboration that has to happen for clients to get success out of what we do.
And how do you measure the success from the services you give your clients? Because they expect some type of ROI, but with social media, it's difficult because unless your sales just spike up because people saw this piece of content, you don't know. Right. So how do you kind of measure and show them month to month, like, hey, we're actually making progress within your social media?
One thing I struggled with early on for sure was verbalizing, communicating expectations with clients early on and throughout onboarding. Because I was a younger business owner, I was so excited, so grateful, so appreciative that I had any sort of business coming through the door. So I don't want to say that we were over-promising and under-delivering. We just almost didn't know what we were promising in the early stages. Now we are doing a lot more in terms of like projecting expectations and understanding exactly per budget breakdown of like, if you invest X, you should expect to receive Y. But we lean heavily on a lot of different, applications and softwares like other businesses do to provide analytics to clients. It depends on what service you're getting from us. We do a central it's the same report we give every single client at the agency. It's something that I plan on doing until we have 50 plus clients. But we turn over something on a monthly basis called an efficiency report. No, this is not a 10 to 20 page deck of analytics that a client's not going to understand. An efficiency report for us is broken down into 3 main segments. It is a report on what did we accomplish for you last month? What were the focal points that we hit? What are we looking forward to next month? What are the key dates? What key campaigns do we have coming up? And then what analytics were achieved intra-period and how do they compare to last month? This very much so simplifies our clients and be able to understand and kind of digest something along the lines of like analytics and providing an ROI. But for some people, it's different. Some clients come to us and they don't care about how many likes and followers they're getting. They just want to have super high quality content, and we can provide that. Yes, we always want to be having a linear progression in terms of growth. Other clients come to us and they're like, we're not doing great sales wise. We need to bring immediate attention. We need to bring immediate, traction and eyeballs to what we're doing. But the clients that we want to work with and the clients that we have the most success with are the ones that understand that brand building and the type of services that we provide is a long-term game. You're not going to see any sort of major results within 3 months. Yes, there's going to be a different look and feel and expectation out of your brand and business within 3 months, but it really takes a good 6 to 12 months to get things rolling and see some kind of generating results. Mm-hmm. But it very much so depends on if the business was doing these things prior, if they didn't do anything at all, and then how we kind of measure what we're doing in the future.
Now, in this day and age, everybody's on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, everything. It's the age of attention.
Yep.
Attention's real cheap today because people are just scrolling on their Instagram, social medias. How important is it? How important is attention in this day and age with everybody on social media?
Yeah, it's everything. It's if you're not marketing yourself, if you're not putting yourself on display, I think you're doing yourself and your business a major disservice. There's definitely industries where it's more prominent and more important. We struggle with this every day in terms of like prospecting and trying to sell and convince other businesses otherwise. But it's free, right? Like I'm a big follower of Gary Vee, and he talks a lot about how these platforms and these engines are free. So back in the day when people were paying for direct mail and paper ads and radio and billboard, those used to cost a ton of money. They still do cost a ton of money. You're able to get the same result, if not better, and a more tangible result by doing something that literally costs you nothing. So yes, it takes skill, it takes time, it takes consistency over anything to achieve some sort of results and metrics. But yeah, the way that people and consumers are taking in attention is evolving every day, and it's going to continue to evolve. But social media really invented that for these businesses.
Well, you got guys like Mr. Beast who have millions and millions of views on videos, and he's able to spend millions of dollars on one video.
It's crazy.
It's kind of ridiculous. What's your take on organic and paid advertising? How do you differentiate it? At what point do you recommend paid to one client and organic to another? Or is it kind of both?
It definitely comes down to how long you've been in business and like how well you're doing as a business, right? A lot of it's affordability. The simple answer in marketing, a lot of these services are pay to play. If you have the correct budget to back your expectations and your goals, if you put the right people in place, you're gonna get there. Us as a company, unless you have a long-standing track record of doing paid and doing media buying, we don't recommend it out of the gate. Why? Similar to your last question, there's an opportunity to run an organic system initially, and it doesn't have to be for a long time, but it could be for 3 months, to allow you as a business to gain the organic data that's going to allow us to save budget and allow us to shorten your burn rate on the back end when you are doing paid. So we would rather batch and run 3 months worth of organic social for you as a business, learn what organic is doing well, and then putting paid dollars behind that on the media buying side after, rather than doing both of them at the time. And realistically, all you're doing is just kind of double experimenting against services, whether you could, rather doing that, a little bit prematurely. So
I think that's great that you kind of analyze it, see what does well, then instead of risking spending the money and it underperforming. And that kind of segues into my next question. How do you look at underperforming content, and how do you learn from it specifically within the content?
Yeah. The question's very interesting because, I even feel like this today with some of our current clients. There's definitely clients that we're doing content for that are all about the consistency, all about the quality. But I know as a business, we could be doing 20 different content concepts and styles to get them more results. That's not always what they care about. But in that case, I think it's important just to try different things in the early stages and understand that not everything's going to be a winner. They're not supposed to all be winners. But it really depends who you are trying to target. We do a lot of work in the beginning of trying to understand demographics. Speaking to everybody is sometimes speaking to nobody. You've seen over the past probably 12 to 24 months a significant rise in community-led and community-based groups that are really monetizing. So you don't need the traditional hundreds of thousands of views to really convert. You just need the right, few thousand to kind of be in your corner. But it's a lot of trial and error. But it's a lot of comfortability. Not everybody is cut out to be on camera. So you got to find out within your organization who works well. I think that's a unique aspect of Link Creative, as we do double as a creative director, producer while we are on site with our clients, and we're able to kind of figure out who does better within an organization. We're able to kind of pull out different verbiage and different sayings and different communication styles for people. But it takes time, and it takes some some trial and error to understand that.
I got a fun question here. If you were to rate these 6 social media platforms, 1 through 6, best to worst, for someone starting out in social media, what they should go on to start promoting their company: YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, X, LinkedIn, or Facebook?
Yeah. My quick cop-out answer will be, if you have the time and budget to be on all of them, you should be on all of them. But it really depends on your industry. I think if you're anything product-based, TikTok is king right now. There's CPG brands popping up every single day that are making millions of dollars on TikTok and TikTok Shop. If you're a service-based business like landscaping, roofing, construction, I think Facebook and Instagram is king. But, I think they're all going to continue to evolve. I'd say we use Instagram is the number one measure for our clients right now. We find that there's still the most attention, but it really depends on the demographics again, right? You have Facebook, which is much more of your boomer demographic. You have Instagram that falls in between, and then you have TikTok, which is your obvious Gen Z market. So it depends on what you're selling. It depends on what your goal is. It depends if you're going after brand awareness versus sales, so on and so forth. But we think that there's a time and a place for all of them. And the way that you portray your business on all of them should be a little bit different. Instagram is much more of a portfolio-based, your best of the best kind of content platform. TikTok is much more casual, much more raw, authentic, uncut. Facebook is somewhere in between. And then YouTube is your opportunity and your platform to really educate people, show people why you are credible within your space, and put out that long format stuff. And then Shorts is huge right now. YouTube Shorts is huge. It's comparable to TikTok, but I think they're all important in their own regard.
Now, I saw somewhere that you can post the same piece of content on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, the same short, and it'll perform good on one and not perform good on two, perform good on two, not perform good on one. Why is that?
Sometimes it's just the luck of the draw. I follow an entrepreneur that I like a lot of his content. I look up to him as a business owner. His name's Dan Martell. He's written a lot of books. He's generated probably 9 figures in revenue by now, but he's doing this very heavily. He tests, I think he posts the identical same video 3 times on TikTok every time he posts a video. And then he just tweaks the hook or tweaks the font, tweaks the caption a little bit, but they're really the same exact video.
At the same time or different times, like over a week?
Within an hour of each other. He's posting 3 of the same videos, different hook, different caption.
And see which one reaches immediately.
Yeah. Whichever one hits immediately, he's got a team of multiple people that are doing this on a daily basis for him. But I don't know the time range, but probably within 24 to 48 hours, they're deleting the underperforming too. That right now, and then there's the new feature on Instagram, which is the trial reel feature. I'm sure a lot of people are still unaware of this, but this is like out operating and live. You are able to take a reel and then post it for the algorithm to see and get that reaction and get those insights before actually pushing it to your followers. So that's something that is, I think, super undertapped right now that people aren't using. We're not even using it as much as I'd like us to. But if you want to get kind of premature insights, it's a major feature.
And lastly, I want to get into second company dropping soon, Link Label.
Yeah.
Big time. You want to get into that?
Yeah. Can't give away too much yet, but it's right around the corner. It's always been my kind of master plan or big goal within Link Creative, and utilizing Link Creative as the engine, the foundation to incubate other businesses. Within our 5-year plan, we have been entertaining a lot of different sort of equity style partnerships, right? The days of Link Creative being able to entertain very simple retainer based structures, it takes a very long time to scale and kind of hit the goals that we want to. So dependent on your industry, dependent on your results, we're entertaining performance share deals, equity based deals. But there was always another side of the business that I understood your big sort of 1% of 1% players are doing that get to the 7 and 8 figure agency realm, which is incubating your own brands and sub brands. So this late summer, early fall, within September, I believe, we'll be launching our first sister company, which is going to be called Link Label. And it's funny that we're kind of, I guess, foreshadowing this on a podcast, but Link Label is going to be a natural segue for us. It's going to be a niche down podcast production and network company. So we're going to merge and blend the idea of podcast distribution, podcast production, and then operating as kind of this network / talent management agency. So one-stop shop for anything production when it comes to podcasting. So whether you want to utilize our facilities for studios and we shoot your podcasts, return your clips, whether you want us to incubate your podcast brand, which is what we're helping you do with Members Room and develop the branding and run the socials and so forth, And if you're an existing podcast and you want a group to back and represent you on the talent management and sponsorship side, we will kind of broker and foster those relationships and deals for bigger brands as well. But again, it's an opportunity to continue the footprint and the track record of developing relationships. All the guests that Alex and Members Room is able to bring into the Link Label world, that's networking for all those people involved. And once we get to the point where we are managing and backing 10, 20, 30, 50 podcast brands, we're going to generate a pool and sort of a network for these individuals to be able to work with each other, sell their services, meet other people within a big city like Chicago. So there's a lot behind it. It's very in its infancy stage right now, but when we do launch, we're going to launch it in a very big way and debut some new things very soon, but we're excited about it.
And that's great because we're using Members Room as kind of the first trial run for Link Label, seeing what works with podcasts, clipping, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Which I think is really neat.
We're excited.
Yeah. Is there any piece of advice you'd give to someone starting out in business or social media or anything?
I guess just entrepreneurially, leave your ego and expectations at the door is what I'll say. There's a million things I could say. All the cliches you see online and on Instagram and TikTok, they're all true, right? This game is not, it's not for everybody. It's grueling. It's mentally and physically very difficult. So you have to be built for it. You have to be ready to kind of weather the storm. Why I say drop your expectations from day one is anytime that I had set an expectation or a premature projection, goal, belief off something, it never pans out. It never happened the way that you initially thought of. So if you think something's going to take 1 month, it's really going to take 3 months. If you think something's going to take 3 months, it's really going to take 6 months. So that's my rule of thumb. But I'd say, consistency, work ethic, and discipline will beat all else. So stay focused on what you're doing, surround yourself with the right people, and continue to network and build relationships. Cool.
Well, thanks, Lorenzo.
Thank you.
Anywhere they can find you on social media?
Yeah, I'll speak to the audience here, but you can follow me on my personal socials at It's Lorenzo Costa, and then our business socials is at Link Creative Co. So it's the same handle on everything: Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. But yeah, thank you for having me on the show. This is awesome.
Definitely. Thanks.